Hello, fellow Beyond the Gates fans. It is time for my Sunday preview of this upcoming week of Beyond the Gates. The week of March 23rd is what I will be previewing today, but also, per usual, reading y'all's comments from this past week of episodes. Even though we only had 3 episodes this past week to comment on. And then at the end, Devin last week asked me to fantasy book a storyline, as we pro wrestling fans call it. So at the end, I will give the way that I would write really two of the storylines, connecting them in one at the end for anyone that wants to listen to that diatribe. But let's start with this preview, which didn't start great with the video preview because it started with Joey and Trash. And it started with Trash, aka Vanessa, in another lovey-dovey scenario with Joey that just makes me sick to my stomach, quite frankly. But in the preview, Vanessa is telling Joey that sometimes she wonders if this is a dream she will wake up from right when it gets good. What exactly is good for Vanessa in this relationship with Joey right now? I am having a hard time understanding the character of Vanessa. For many weeks now, I have been blasting the character because the writing for Vanessa has just made her more and more unlikable. And now with her daughter, Deanna, so upset with her. So I don't really understand this line from Vanessa in the preview because there's nothing good about her life right now. I don't know if she's just so in denial after Doug's death, but the job has done a totally terrible job of making me, but I think most of us, believe that she actually mourned Doug because she was in the middle of the affair with Joey the whole time. Anyway, terrible start to the preview, frankly. Next, we have Dani asking Nicole a stupid question, that if Kial and Carlton were cars, who would she drive for 100,000 miles? Nicole said it's not a competition, and Dani made a comment that she could keep both men, both Kial and Carlton. There's only so much longer this whole little triangle can go with the way they have written it, because I just don't buy that both Carlton and Kial would keep fighting just to have sex with Nicole. I really just don't buy it anymore. I think that one of them would move on somewhere else eventually or have a different suitor of their own. So if there was more substance to these two relationships that Nicole could find herself in, maybe it would be more intriguing. But these comments from Dani, which is kind of more of the same, doesn't really intrigue me either. Next, we see a very sick-looking Anita saying she wants to sign a don't resuscitate order. I think Anita might be taking a turn for the worse this week. That is what I get from this preview. Now, I still highly doubt they're going to be killing off Anita, but I'm sure they're going to ramp up the counter drama with Anita over this next week. And then we see Vernon telling Nicole and Dani that he hasn't been able to stop Anita from doing what she wants, a date in our lives. So I don't know if this is Anita having some procedure from Dr. Monica, or if this is a Vernon talking about her do not resuscitate order that she seems to want. But Vernon was gathered with Nicole and Dani, so hopefully there's not too much dominant cancer story this next week, because even though it is one of the only decently written storylines on the show right now, it's still not my favorite thing to watch. And then last in their preview is a very pissy Smitty. I mean, we have not even seen Smitty this pissy with Martin, in my opinion. But Smitty is on the phone with Jacob, and Smitty is saying that they said that if this got dangerous, they would pull the plug. And then he says, well, Jacob, it's dangerous. So Smitty getting worried and upset with Jacob here because something in this undercover must go wrong this week. I'm just hoping that with this story, they are able to actually raise the stakes this week, They really need that for this story. I don't know if something's going to happen to someone this week, but I think they need to build towards that. I'm not saying they got to kill off Jacob or kill off Smitty, but I think something needs to happen to one of them in the next couple of weeks to really amp up the story and just amp up the excitement in the story, because it really does need some amping up, in my opinion. So that's the whole preview. Honestly, not my favorite preview. I do think this week will be a more dramatic week than this past week, but if a lot of the drama comes from Anita's cancer story, it's still not going to be my personal favorite thing. But let's get to some of y'all's comments over this past week with the 3 episodes that we did have. Harriet Smallwood said, I just cannot even touch the delusional Leslie stuff anymore. I'm just going to continue to hope that one day she will get what's coming to her. I think a lot of you in the comments feel this way about Leslie, including myself. I was a holdout on the story, hoping they would find an actual direction for it, but they haven't found that yet. Harriet Smallwood also said, the Nicole storyline for me is unrealistic and not entertaining. I would hope that a doctor specializing in mental health would see that engaging 2 men who clearly want her to themselves and working with both of them is not healthy, professional, or safe. I feel like Nicole would advise one of her patients against this. It's also just not entertaining at all. Carlton is giving me creepy vibes. Yeah, like I said with the preview, I don't really know how much longer they can go with this triangle. I mean, the show's going to go longer because the show moves too slow. The pacing is very bad lately. But Carlton being creepy could at least be a direction for the storyline if they would move it faster. Your love angel said, I think Isaiah is going to be good for helping Eva learn to set boundaries with Mama. I agree. Isaiah did a great job with Leslie this week and in just supporting Eva, not only with Leslie, but in general. I think Isaiah really could be good for Eva, and I hope that it just evolves the Eva character, because the character has certainly needed some evolving, and just not being like the daughter of Leslie who always has to deal with Leslie. Linda Thornton 6607 said, Leslie needs some of her own business and some friends and a man because she is so busy. Writers are all over the place. I can't stand Leslie, so intrusive. I'm glad Isaiah checked Leslie. Leslie has some major issues. She tries so hard to be important and she is not. The boys were having a problem with Nicole, Petty as well. It was a struggle to watch. Fans need action. Yes, this show really does need some action. I think that the show really just needs to find a direction for Leslie. I think we are all in agreement with that. Fuel One said, I've been fast forwarding through the scenes with Leslie for months. So there's someone who has felt that way about Leslie for quite a while now. Marty B1 says, did Jacob take Naomi to a hotel room right next to his favorite alley? That's what it looked like. When the door was open, it looked like it was right by the alley that he likes to stand in all the time. Marty B says, so now Ashley will tell Grayson about Naomi meeting up with Jacob, and then he'll know that Jacob was lying to him, so who knows what may happen next. That could be why Jacob is in trouble this week, because he's done such a god-awful job. Even though he wants to prove himself to Elon, I think meeting with Naomi the other day was just another stupid decision by this slow-ass cop on the show. Raw Sun 316 says, they probably had Isaiah take his shirt off to compensate for the lack of actual story in this episode. I think Raw Sun was right about that. Soap operas will do that. Although they used to do it when they had story too, but I do think Isaiah was supposed to be a good distraction. GB3398 cracked me up with this comment saying, my mother texted me, Jacob is dead. And then a few minutes later she texted me, it's a dream. At the end of the show, my mom texted and said, I'm annoyed, today was boring. I texted her back and was not going to watch. Then she was like, no, watch it so you can be annoyed like me. I think, like I said in the comments, your mom really wanted to torture you with that episode because it was one of the worst episodes this show has had, unfortunately. Devin in the comments said, even Eva hates Leslie. he made a quote by Isaiah that said, "Hey, your dad gave you the whole day off," and then a quote by Eva that said, "Fuck that, my mom's here, I'm going to work," which is basically what Eva did. I mean, Eva should be annoyed by Leslie. I'm glad that that's finally being expressed again by Eva, because for too long she's just kind of been going with, "Oh, mama, I'm gonna help my mama." I think Eva needs to start growing into her own person. Hopefully, this is a start for that. Angel Annette Bolden said, "I'm sure the writers will choose to make Deanna an alcoholic." I mean, I'm okay with that to an extent, but I don't want it to be them trying to find ways to make Deanna look bad in the story so that, nobody wants to believe Deanna about Joey and Vanessa, because it's just a bad storyline that truly needs to end at this point. So if that's just a way for the writers to stretch it out, I think that will be a horrible decision. Laura Hudnall 2830 said, "I think Leslie killed her husband." That's always been a speculation. I'm sure it will come up at some point, more of that history between Leslie and her husband. Ed the Bank 4115 said, "Until Kat dumps Tomas, she's the last person to talk about anybody's relationship. She's still with a man that slept with her sister, so she can take a seat." I 100% agree with Ed the Bank on that. Sable7114 said, "Maybe I missed this over the past year, but what does Andre and Isaiah actually do for employment?" Andre's a photographer. Isaiah's supposed to be a professor. Then Sable also said, "And I was watching Young and the Restless today on YouTube, and someone commented that Victor Newman from The Young and the Restless would be visiting Beyond the Gates in June. Does anyone know anything about that storyline?" There's supposed to be some Young and the Restless crossover in June with this show. Unfortunately for us, The Young and the Restless is like the worst it's ever been, possibly. I tried to watch an episode this week. Couldn't even get through half of it. So on one hand, I'm like, I would love to see Victor Newman come on the show and put Joey Armstrong in his place. But Victor annoys me so much on The Young and the Restless that I think I would be on Team Joey Armstrong at this point. WD We Explore and Chill said, "Bill was outstanding today, and I loved the moment with him and Kat too. Her and Chelsea have been tight their whole life, so I could see how Uncle Bill would even feel like a second father at times. Love this episode." Bill had a very strong episode on Wednesday. It was a good episode for him, and it was a good moment for him and Kat that I also think was realistic because, like WD We Explore and Chill said, Chelsea and Kat have always been close, so it is probable. Kathy7511 said, "How much money does Leslie really have? Seems like $1 billion. Anita couldn't have put that much money in that account. Leslie's storyline is becoming a little ridiculous." Honestly, the whole money side of Leslie's story is more than a little ridiculous. It's become quite ridiculous over the months. Wade David said, "I really liked the scenes between Anita and Bill today. They were very moving." I agree. I thought it was great for Bill's character, and it shows us the softer side of Bill. Even though we've been seeing that for months, he's been missing being a part of the Dupree family, even if it's his ego, because he can't stand seeing Dani with another man. Jasmine Williams said, "I really hope the Shouse never sees the light of day and Leslie goes broke. Orange is the new couture. Justice for Laura. Freedom for Eva." I mean, I kind of want Leslie to go broke, but at the same time, if she does, like, what was the point of even giving her the money in the first place? I just question that decision every week, because ever since Leslie's gotten money, they've had no real direction for her. So why even do that in the first place? Last comment. Barbara Gregg said, "Great episode." This was Wednesday. "Bill showed his humanity. Anita showed her vulnerability. Kyle showed his remorse. Isaiah showed his true colors and feelings for Eva. Joey showed his love for Vanessa." I mean, I agree with all of those, although that last thing kind of makes me sick to my stomach. Joey showing his love for trash. Barbara Gregg also asked, "June, where are you?" Barbara Gregg is always asking that in the comments. But I would like to see more June compared to some of these other characters. Devin said something, I missed it in the comments while I was reading here, about how maybe they could put Derek with June since Derek is a changed man. I'm not against it. They could test it. Derek has more chemistry with pretty much every other character than he ever had with Ashley. And speaking of Devin, the last thing I'm going to do today is my fantasy booking of a storyline. So stay with me here while I go over this entire diatribe. I put a lot of thought into this. There will probably be no ending to this storyline planning, but I mean, on soap opera storylines, they always keep going, and there's only so much I can book in my head and in writing without, taking a lot of time to do this. So my story is kind of what I would do with the Vanessa and Joey and her kids nonsense, but that also ties into Randy and Haley and Bill and Lynette. What I would like from the storyline is to see Donnell to start to see things from Deanna's point of view. And since Donnell now knows that Joey owns Heart Attach, the escort service, I think they should soon discover that Vanessa now runs that. And I think I would like to see both kids like tag team some of Joey's casino employees to try and dig deeper into Joey's operations, which would eventually put Joey between a rock and a hard place, because usually if somebody was snooping too much, I think he would have them taken care of, aka probably killed. But this is Vanessa's kids we're talking about. But I think while this is also going on, since Vanessa, aka Trash, is so desperate to be more and more involved in Joey's operations, I think that she should become more and more involved with Joey's shady operations and just continue to be dumb about that, which we'll circle back to. I think Randy should become aware that Joey is considering doing something to Donnell and Deanna. And who would Randy go see? Well, a very much alive Doug. Because Doug has been laying low, and both Randy and Marcel have been in on this, plotting to take down Joey because Marcel finally wants to retire, which is something we've been told in the past. I know some people in the comments are like, we don't like Back from the Dead storylines on soap operas, but it's a soap opera staple, and they left it open-ended in the first place. Like, Doug was severely burned that, hard to identify. Marcel could have put another body in there. It's not a Back from the Dead storyline if you were never dead. That's the thing. Sometimes on a soap opera, they'll really kill someone in a way where it's like impossible for them to really be alive. But they didn't do that with Doug. It was left open-ended. So I would have Randy and Marcel trying to stop Doug from blowing his cover once he learns that Joey might harm his children, which I think would be natural. So Marcel really has to continue to get Doug to trust him, which we will circle back to, because this is kind of a bit of a umbrella storyline that I mapped out here. I would have Bill keep seeing Haley and Sammy, aka Randy, together way too much. I think if I was writing, I would give Bill at least most of his brain back, and starting to think that Haley and Sammy are having an affair, which I think Joey would confirm to Bill at some point. And since Bill thinks that Haley's having an affair, since Lynette has been trying to get to know Bill, I think they would get very close and have an affair of their own and sleep together, which would eventually lead to Lynette carrying Bill's baby. Look, if I'm going to write a storyline, I'm going to write Lynette in the storyline, of course. Anyway, Lynette ends up telling Haley that she's pregnant, and Haley would be shocked to put it together that it's Bill's baby, which means Haley cannot let her entire scheme go to waste. I think she would need Bill dead ASAP so she can get the money before Bill finds out Lynette is pregnant with his baby and changes the will. So I would have Haley confront Lynette with the gun while wearing gloves, stylish gloves, although it's Haley who is always anti-stylish and just tacky. So I guess we would have Haley wearing some tacky gloves and them getting to a scuffle which Lynette ends up getting the gun, points it at Haley. But Lynette's not going to kill Haley because she has too much to lose carrying Bill's baby now. So Haley calms down after having the gun pointed at her. But when she gets the gun back from Lynette, she got what she wanted, which was Lynette's fingerprints on the gun. Meanwhile, Randy and Marcel are plotting to set Joey up to be caught with an incoming shipment of drugs, send him to prison, so they are hoping. But Doug is getting antsy and wants to be involved and ends up following Randy. But Randy's not going to set up Joey yet. He heard from Haley that Bill needs to die ASAP, and Randy is worried that Haley might do something stupid, and he arrives to the house to see Haley turning off the security cameras in the house and having a gun, and Randy tries to talk Haley out of this, but Bill arrives once again saying Randy and Haley together, so Bill accuses them of having an affair. But Haley, who's still wearing her gloves, by the way, pulls the gun out on Bill, admits that Randy is her cousin, but Haley knows that Bill was the one having a real affair with Lynette, so Haley shoots Bill, trying to kill him. Doug, meanwhile, had followed Randy there and is thinking that Randy's going to be meeting Marcel, but he hears the gunshots and sees Haley and Randy leaving frantically. Doug goes inside to see Bill struggling to stay alive, but here's the key point to this. If you remember, Bill played a big part in Joey killing Doug because Doug went to Bill with information about Joey, and Bill ratted him out to Joey. And in this storyline, this fantasy storyline, I would have Doug remember this, Marcel telling him that Bill was the cause of why Joey had to do this. And so Doug would leave Bill for dead, another dramatic moment. Now, of course, I wouldn't kill Bill off. He could be in like a soap opera coma for a while or something. And maybe like Dani would suspect that Haley was behind the shooting the whole time, even though Lynette's fingerprints were on the gun. But we're going to leave that storyline open-ended there and get to my ending of the other storyline. I would have Marcel and Randy finally about to set Joey up before he hurts Deanna or Donnell or has them killed. However, there's one big snag in the plan. Marcel is still dating Leslie, and he's told Leslie too much information, and she's put it together that he's trying to take down Joey. So annoying old Leslie goes to Joey, seeing this as an opportunity, and lets him in on the fact of what she thinks Marcel is trying to do to Joey, set him up at the casino with a shipment of drugs. And there's only one thing Joey cares about, and that's saving himself. So he knows Vanessa is coming to meet him at the casino and is now heavily involved in more of his operations. So Joey leaves Vanessa there holding the bag, and I would have Trash, of course, go to prison for a while. And then maybe Joey can take out Marcel so that when Doug reveals himself to be alive, it's Doug's word against Joey's that Joey tried to have him killed. I haven't really thought out beyond that, but I think that would make for some much more dramatic moments than what we have been getting from this show as of late. So that was my little attempt at fantasy booking. I think we could have some really dramatic moments from Bill getting shot from Haley, setting up Lynette, Doug leaving Bill for dead as a bit of revenge. Looks like Joey's going down, but he sets up Trash to take the fall because she's been so stupid this whole time. And maybe when Doug reveals himself to be alive, his ass shouldn't want to help Vanessa either after everything that's gone on. But I'm sure his kids would convince Doug to try and get Vanessa out of prison, but I think she should spend some time in prison. I could use a break from Trash. All right, that's all I got this week.